Welcome to Seriously Sus, the podcast that exposes shadiness with a side eye, hosted by Nanette and Miranda. And we're here to uncover true crime trends and internet chaos that makes you question everything. So get your side eye ready, because things are about to get seriously sus. The Self-Sabotage Files, criminals caught by their own clicks.
Welcome back to Seriously Sus, the podcast where we peel back the layers of true crime and ask the question, what were they thinking? I'm Miranda.
And I'm Nanette. Today's episode is a wild ride through the minds of criminals who thought they were geniuses, but ended up being their own worst enemy.
We're talking about people who Googled their crimes, people who bragged on social media, and even live streamed their felonies. Spoiler alert, technology and arrogance don't mix.
From permanent marker disguises to murder selfies, these stories will make you laugh, cringe, and maybe rethink your own search history. So let's dive in.
So let's start. Criminals who Googled their crimes. Edward Yates. Let's start with Edward Yates. This case sounds like a crime thriller, except the villain, he left a digital trail that just screamed, I did it. In 2006, Yates drove from Florida to Ramsey, New Jersey, and shot his former son in law, Paul Dunsack, 6 times during a bitter custody battle. The motive? A long standing feud over his daughter's divorce and custody arrangements. Yates believed that Dunsack was ruining his family, and he decided to take matters into his own hands.
What makes this case jaw-dropping is the amount of planning and how that planning became his downfall. Investigators discovered Yates had spent weeks researching online. He Googled phrases like how to commit the perfect murder, how to pick locks, and even how to build a silencer. He purchased books on silencers and left behind receipts. Okay, yeah, definitely a dumb criminal.
Google how to murder someone and get away with it.
And leave me leave all of the receipts for my silencer and other murder tools right here.
Make sure that you're paying with your credit card. Don't use cash.
Delivered right to your house,
Yeah, use Amazon actually.
Right, exactly. So prosecutor Catherine Foda told jurors this was not a crime of passion. This was calculated, researched, and executed. It's chilling because he thought he was covering every angle.
Yeah, he totally Googled every angle, right?
Right? Except for how not to get caught.
But here's where arrogance really comes in. When Yates was arrested, his defense was, wait for it, I'm too fat to kill anyone. He claimed that at 285 pounds, his frame made it impossible for him to climb stairs or drive 24 hours from Florida to New Jersey. His lawyer argued that his asthma and sleep apnea made the crime physically impossible. The jury didn't buy it. I mean, they had GPS data, toll records, and that search history. All right, so let's pause here because this is where people confuse effort with intelligence.
I don't think anyone's confusing those in this case.
That's true, because Edward Yates didn't just wake up and snap one day. He researched, he planned, he Googled, and in his mind, that meant he was totally smarter than everyone else.
Right. He thought research made him untouchable. But what he really did was create a syllabus for prosecutors. This wasn't a mystery. This was a group project, and Google did most of the work.
And this is a reoccurring theme. These people don't realize that every search has context. Not just what you Googled, it's when, how often, and what happened next.
Exactly. Investigators aren't impressed by planning. They're impressed when you don't leave a breadcrumb trail. And Edward left the whole loaf.
A whole ass loaf. All right. So next up, Susan Lorenz. The case is heartbreaking and infuriating. In June 2003, Lorenz shot her neighbor, AJ Owens.
This is the perfect neighbor woman.
Oh, yeah. That documentary was crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So Lorenz shot her neighbor, AJ Owens, through the locked door after years of feuding over the neighborhood kids playing near her property. So Owens was a mother of four, and the confrontation escalated after Lorenz yelled at the children and threw objects at them.
And here's the kicker: Lorenz had searched Florida's Stand Your Ground law before the shooting. She was literally Googling how to justify deadly force. During the interrogation, she invoked the law, claiming she feared for her life. But prosecutors painted a different picture. Adam Smith told jurors she was not in fear, she was angry, and she had time to think before pulling that trigger. The search history became a smoking gun for premeditation. Not to mention, if the documentary was right, um, she called the police and then shot the woman, like, what, 90 seconds later, 2 minutes later?
That lady is nuts, man. How you gonna be mad at like just kids playing around you?
And it wasn't even your property, and they had permission from the property owner to play there.
Yeah, some people just mad all the time. Oh, that's crazy. Well, Lorenz had a documented history of calling the police and recording kids, and she was trying to paint herself as like the perfect neighbor. But I mean, those searches combined with her own statements really destroyed her credibility. Lorenz thought she was building a defense before committing the crime, but instead she just like handed prosecutors a roadmap of her intent. Like the jury convicted her of manslaughter with a firearm, and she's serving 25 years, rightfully so. Old racist witch.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, we got Brian Walsh next. All right, let's talk about a 2023 case that it took Google confession to just like a whole nother level. It's Brian Walsh out of Massachusetts. This is the case where the internet searches didn't just suggest intent, they like mapped out the clean.
Exactly. Prosecutors allege Walsh searched terms like how to dispose of a body, how long before decomposition smells, and how to clean blood after his wife, Anna Walsh, disappeared.
Oh, and here's where it gets legally fascinating. His defense is trying to suppress his search history, arguing that the police went beyond what was like consented to when they initially accessed his devices.
But prosecutors say the searches were in plain view, and once you open that digital door, you don't get to pretend the mess inside doesn't exist. This case is a masterclass in why digital evidence is so powerful. You don't need witnesses, no confession, just a timeline built from clicks, searches, and location data.
And it reinforces something that we keep seeing. People think that if they delete their browser history, it just like erases it. It doesn't. The servers, they remember. All right, Christopher Porco, November 15th, 2004. Christopher Porco committed one of the most brutal family crimes in recent memory. He attacked his parents with an axe while they slept. His father, Peter, died from like catastrophic injuries. His mother, Joan, she survived, but she's permanently disfigured. Despite her injuries, she initially indicated that her son was her attacker. But she later recanted that.
Porco's arrogance was his undoing. Investigators found he had searched, quote, how to disable home security systems and how to kill someone in their sleep. Yeah, that kind of gives you away. Plus, even if she recanted, a mom doesn't, say her son killed her husband and deformed her without it being true.
I would let that be noted, kids.
Yes. He also tampered with the family's alarm system before the attack. Toll records and surveillance placed him near the crime scene. Judge Jeffrey Barry said at sentencing, "Your arrogance and deceit were staggering. You thought you could outsmart everyone. You're wrong. Clearly, that judge had had enough of him."
Mike drop on his ass. The trial was sensational. Porco maintained his innocence. Like but the digital evidence, his search history, toll data, alarm logs, they all told a different story. So he was convicted of second-degree murder and attempted murder.
Can we just take a moment for the defense attorneys in these cases? Because imagine standing in court trying to explain away search terms like how to kill someone in their sleep.
I imagine that's how my guardian angel looks every single day, just the same look on their face. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this right now.
Right?
There is no creative spin for that. You can't just be like, "Oh, it was for a novel." Jurors aren't buying that in the age of like Google timelines and device syncing. Oh, and if you have no novel, there's no manuscript anywhere.
was all in my mind.
I was in the thinking phase.
Right? And when you stack all of that with toll records, alarm logs, phone pings, that's not circumstantial anymore. That's choreography.
And people really do be bringing their phone with them on a crime.
Right?
Matthew Bolton. Matthew's case is disturbing because he was a police officer. So, in April 2016, his wife Jessica was found in a locked closet with a gunshot wound to her head from his service weapon. Initially, it was ruled a suicide attempt, but investigators uncovered some troubling details.
Clayton, now let's remember this is a police officer, had searched how to kill your wife and not get caught, and how to make it look like an accident.
Right, so clearly not the force's finest.
No. I am speechless at this one right now. And during the interrogation, Lieutenant Karen Yancey confronted him about his lies regarding missing belongings, saying, "You wrote that you didn't have her belongings. We have them. Why lie?" Those searches and inconsistencies raised some serious questions. I mean, you can't be surprised he lied if he's Googling how to kill my wife and not get caught while making it look like an accident.
Not the best and brightest on your force.
No.
He was cleared of attempted murder, but fired for lying and violating his oath. So, this case highlights how digital evidence can expose intent, even when physical evidence is, inconclusive.
I wish we had more details on this because I'd love to know how he got off.
Right? Like, how did you just,
It was your own revolver, and
clearly you did it. Like, that's not
right.
mm,
You Googled,
how to kill your wife.
but this shows that law enforcement officers aren't immune to ignorance either. Boynton thought he could outsmart investigators. Instead, his own search history betrayed him.
All right, Daniel Glenn. Finally, we're getting to Daniel Glenn. And as comical as the other ones were, this one it's almost comical too. Glenn literally called a store and asked how much cash was in the register before attempting the robbery.
Hey, you gotta know if it's worth the time and effort, right?
He's like, oh, I got to get all the way over there. What would be my hourly wage in this robbery?
Right?
So the owner immediately called the police, obviously.
Glenn was arrested en route. No elaborate planning, no tech, just pure stupidity. Sometimes, Miranda, the best detective is common sense.
Oh, that is a good one. All right, so for our second segment, we have the self-snitching criminals. Imagine snitching on yourself. Aaron Morrison, the liquor store Lothario. All right, let's kick off our self-snitchers with Aaron Morrison. This one is equal parts ridiculous and revealing. Aaron walked into a liquor store in Scotland, stole a bottle of vodka, and instead of making a clean getaway, decided to stop for a minute and flirt with the cashier.
Oh no, please tell me he didn't.
Oh, he did. And he left his actual name and phone number with her. Like, hey, call me sometime.
I'm sure she was super impressed.
Obviously, the cashier handed that info straight to the police. They didn't even need security footage, they had his contact details. Like she wanted to date somebody who can't even afford his own bottle of vodka anyway.
Right. This is the kind of arrogance we're talking about. He thought he was charming while committing a crime. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. He was arrested almost immediately.
It just goes to show you how ego and impulsivity can override common sense.
Girl be hot, I guess.
He was shooting a shot. He was shooting his shot.
Permanent marker disguise duo. Next up, we have the infamous permanent marker duo. If you guys haven't heard about these guys, you're in for a treat. Two men in Iowa decided to commit a burglary. Now, instead of buying masks, they drew masks on their face in permanent black marker.
I can't even. Permanent marker? that does not wash off easily.
I wish we had photos. Exactly. A witness called the police reporting two men with painted faces trying to break into a home. When police officers stopped their car, the marker masks were still on their faces.
Obviously.
Right? I wonder how long they stayed on. Carroll Police Chief Jeff Carler said, "We're skilled investigators, but the black faces gave them away immediately. I I've never seen anything so dumb.
Oh, do we have any of those pictures from when they were arrested? I'd love to post those. We're gonna find those.
We're on our Google search.
Oh good, we're gonna show you guys. We gotta find that. They were charged with attempted burglary, and one of them got a DUI on top of that.
Well, that explains why they thought the permanent marker was a good idea.
Their mugshots went viral because the marker obviously wouldn't come off. It's like they just tattooed their guilt right up on their faces.
It's a perfect example of criminals underestimating how obvious their actions look. They thought they were being clever, when in reality, they were broadcasting their crimes. I would love to have heard that conversation about, instead of going out and getting a mask, I got a Sharpie right here.
Drunk thoughts.
Yes.
The best, the best. All right, next up we have Tony Van. And honestly, it feels like performance art. Van was on trial for possessing a stolen Porsche worth $125,000. On the day of his verdict, he drove a stolen Lexus SUV to the courthouse.
Wait, while facing auto theft charges, he drives another stolen car to the court.
Yeah. Oh, and it gets better. It gets better. Puppies inside the Lexus escaped, drawing attention from the bystanders.
Oh my goodness.
Like there were puppies.
He stole puppies.
He stole puppies in the Lexus, and they escaped. So deputies discovered the Lexus was stolen, and then they found a stolen laptop and checkbook inside. The judge bureau, he said, all right, this is a new level of audacity. You drove a stolen car to court while facing theft charges. Full of stolen dogs.
Right? Who cares about the car? What about the puppies? His bail jump from $10,000 to $250,000 isn't just dumb. This is bold stupidity. He basically handed the law enforcement a second case on a silver platter.
And because we know you wanted to know this too, despite our best research, we were unable to find out any more information on the puppies.
So if anyone knows anything about this case and knows what happened to the puppies, let us know.
Please fill us in.
Cheyenne Rose Antoine, the murder selfie. This one is chilling. Cheyenne Rose Antoine killed her best friend, Brittany Garlow, after a night of drinking. Hours before the murder, she posted a selfie on Facebook wearing the belt later found near Brittany's body, the murder weapon.
That photo became a key piece of evidence. Prosecutor Robin Ritter said, it's remarkable how the police developed this information. That selfie was key. Investigators reconstructed the timeline using social media posts and messages.
Antoine pled guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 7 years. She even admitted in court that she couldn't remember the attack because she was intoxicated. Remind me never to piss you off when you're drunk.
I know, right?
Or just make sure you don't have any belts on.
Dang, most people just pass out wherever they're at. Maybe throw up on them, say embarrassed. No, most people don't murder. Jesus. So this highlights how social media and oversharing can turn into self-incrimination. Antoine didn't just leave a clue. She left her confession in pixels. Manuel Ruiz. Murder for an audience. So let's talk about one of the most disturbing evolutions of this trend, the live streamed murders. In June 2025, Manuel Ruiz allegedly shot and killed 2 people on the Las Vegas Strip, right in front of the Bellagio fountains, and he live streamed it.
This wasn't accidental exposure. This was performance. The shooting stemmed from a social media feud between YouTubers, and prosecutors said Ruiz broadcasted the violence in real time. That video became instant evidence. No chain of custody. No, he said, she said. The crime, the weapon, the moment, it was all captured.
Fair though, isn't that what happened to Tupac and they never caught his killer? Same spot, I think.
Right?
And now prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. That's the ultimate price of chasing online validation. This is what happens when ego meets algorithm. The need for attention overrides self-preservation and intelligence.
Yeah.
And if you think that's extreme, there's a August 2025 case of Lewis McLaughlin Jr., an 18-year-old in California who stabbed a stranger and live streamed it on Discord. He later admitted he did it for attention and views. Views. Stab someone? Yeah. Wow.
Dumbfounded here. Police didn't have to track him down. He uploaded the evidence himself. The video, the location, even an apology message, everything investigators needed. This isn't just stupidity. It's a collapse of impulse control in an age of constant broadcasting.
As the phenomenon of live stream crime grows, people are broadcasting assaults, kidnappings, and even murders on Facebook Live and TikTok. I mean, others have filmed like beatings for clout.
Live stream crimes, why the camera changes everything. And this is where it stops being just stupidity and starts being psychology. Because live stream crimes aren't about committing the act, they're about being seen committing it.
Right. When someone goes live during a crime, they're not thinking about consequences. They're thinking about reaction, views, comments, validation. Crime becomes performance.
And social media platforms are built to reward that behavior. Algorithms prioritize content that keeps people watching, especially shocking, emotional, or extreme content, which creates a feedback loop. The moment people start reacting in real time, likes, comments, shares, it triggers a dopamine response in the brain, the same reward system involved in gambling addiction. So instead of de escalating, people escalate. They stay live longer, they go further, they do more, because the brain is chasing that next hit of attention.
Here's the dangerous part. Live streaming reduces inhibition, actually. So, when people are focused on the screen and their audience, their awareness of risk really collapses. The future, it disappears, and there's only a moment. Research and law enforcement have described this as performative impulsivity. The need to entertain or shock, it really just overrides the self preservation. And from a policing standpoint, it changes everything. Officers aren't reconstructing a crime after effects. They're like watching it unfold.
That means timestamps, locations, faces, voices, weapons, sometimes even the suspect narrating their own motive in real time. Probable cause becomes instant. Jurors don't have to imagine what happened, they watch it. Defense teams aren't arguing theory, they're arguing against video, which is why law enforcement has said these cases are both a nightmare and a gift. A nightmare for the trauma and moderation, but a gift for accountability.
The internet, it doesn't just capture the crime, it preserves it. It copies it, it replays it. I mean, this isn't just about bad decisions. It's what happens when ego, impulse, and algorithm designed to reward engagement collide. The live stream isn't just evidence, it's accelerant.
This is like another reason why social media is going to be the downfall of society. I mean, I can't imagine needing someone's approval, a stranger on the internet, enough to like murder someone. I don't get this whole like clout chasing thing.
Especially like all these negative things where people are trying to get attention for. I don't know. Personally, I'm like, do not take a picture of me if I'm like out and acting stupid. I'm not trying to record it myself. I don't need someone else to do it. You know, if there was evidence of like just dumb things we all did as teenagers, not even illegal, just dumb.
Thank God there was not social media when I was a teenager. But again, we weren't even like recording anything at the time.
Right.
Everything we've just talked about happens in the moment. What happens next is where technology really closes the trap. And this is where law enforcement has started using a new phrase. They call it smartphone impartial digital witness. Okay.
Smartphones, impartial, digital witness.
I call to the stand Miranda's phone. Pass it over. Because your phone doesn't forget and it doesn't lie. Oh, it lies to me. It lies all the time when I'm trying to text somebody and it auto corrects things.
Nobody has ever said forking. Yes, they have on the good place, but
Or ducking.
right.
And it doesn't care about your version of the truth or your version of events.
It really doesn't. The phone just quietly logs everything. The call records, text, timestamps, app usage, GPS pings, Wi Fi connections, cell phone tower handoffs, sometimes even down to the minute. Even things people don't think of as evidence, like fitness trackers, step counts, screen wake ups, or when the phone is plugged in and unplugged, like all of that can be tracked and all of it matters.
It's kind of scary. We are really living in the Big Brother era, and we just accept it. We're all sheeples.
Well, what are you gonna do about it?
Right. Because we're not giving up our smartphones. I need that damn map to get me where I'm going.
I was gonna say, do you know how lost I would get? Let me pull out the old map like I used to. Hold on.
Right? And what's wild is the evidence isn't just what your phone shows, it's also what your phone doesn't show. If a device suddenly goes dark during the exact window of a crime, investigators ask why. If it reappears miles away minutes later, that's no coincidence. That's a timeline.
They're like, yeah, people don't shut off their phones. We know what you're doing.
Yep.
People think that turning off their phones just makes them like invisible, but sometimes it does the opposite.
Right.
It highlights intent.
When was the last time you turned off your phone? I can't even remember.
I think I even put it on silent, like going into the movie theater. Like I don't even think I turn it off.
Nope.
But that's crazy. So investigators, they layer phone data with surveillance footage and transaction logs, toll records, all your social media activity. And so like individually, each of these little pieces might seem small, but together they reconstruct your movements with pretty terrifying accuracy.
And that's why law enforcement calls phones digital witnesses. They're always present. There's always observing. They're always listening. And they're always trying to sell you things based on what you say. And they don't get confused under pressure.
You can argue motive, you can argue intent, you can argue memory, but it's really hard to argue with a timestamp.
And jurors understand that because your phone doesn't have a reason to lie for you.
The biggest myth criminals believe is that technology gives them an edge. The reality is, it gives investigators a witness that never sleeps.
Law enforcement says these cases are a nightmare for evidence preservation, but a goldmine for conviction. A detective once said, "They're handing us the crime in real time. It's shocking, and it speaks to a craving for attention. The intersection of crime and social media is challenging criminal behavior. The need for validation can override self-preservation."
We touched on live stream crimes earlier, but this deserves a deeper look because it isn't just like impulsive behavior anymore, it's performative. Law enforcement and researchers have noticed a pattern. Crimes committed on live streams aren't accidents, they're driven by attention, validation, and that algorithmic reward.
When likes, views, and comments hit in real time, it triggers the same dopamine response as gambling. People escalate. They stay live. They don't stop. This isn't just stupidity. It's what happens when ego meets an algorithm that rewards chaos. And the internet doesn't just remember, it replays.
How Google, Snapchat, Facebook, and GPS turn criminals into their own worst enemy. Let's start with the obvious. Criminals are basically snitching on themselves. Every time they post, stream, or even carry a phone, they're just leaving a trail. Law enforcement doesn't even have to break a sweat.
Take geofence warrants. These let police compel companies like Google to hand over location data for every device near a crime scene during a specific time frame. It's a reverse search. Start with the location, then find the suspects. This technique has cracked everything from homicides to property crimes. God, I wonder how many times we've shown up just for being in the French Quarter.
Right? It's just everywhere.
Right.
Just ping, ping, ping.
Right.
And here's where it gets complicated, though. So, geofence warrants don't just catch criminals, they also sweep up innocent people. In a 2025 Texas murder case, a narrow geoforce warrant helped identify like suspects near a crime scene, but it really ignited like a national privacy debate.
Now let's talk about a tool criminals thought was genius and turned out to be catastrophic. Apple AirTags. These are designed to help you find your keys. Criminals decide to use them to track people. And instead, they created some of the cleanest digital evidence law enforcement has ever seen.
By 2024 and 2025, AirTags were showing up in stalking cases, robberies, and even murders. So much so that like states like Florida upgraded unauthorized tracking with devices like AirTags from a misdemeanor to a felony. I know I've seen those things all over social media that tell you make sure you check under your car every once in a
Right.
while, things like that. Yeah, we've all seen it.
Uh-huh. And here's where criminals miscalculate. AirTags don't just track victims. They create a time-stamped movement histories. They chirp, they alert phones nearby, and they log when and where they move.
So prosecutors aren't guessing. They're just piling up maps that show where the tracker was planted, how long it followed someone, and exactly where it traveled.
You didn't just stalk someone, you generated a PowerPoint.
In multiple cases, the tracker itself became the smoking gun. Not because it was hidden, but because it worked too well. This is what happens when criminals use consumer tech without understanding that consumer tech is built to log everything.
But the courts are split. Some say this is modern policing, others say it's digital dragnet. So, yes, technology is powerful, but it's also raising questions like privacy, consent, and how much surveillance you're willing to accept to solve a crime.
Then there's Snapchat. People think that disappearing messages mean disappearing evidence. Nope. Metadata, unopened messages, even location info can be accessed with subpoenas or warrants under the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. Facebook and other platforms, same deal. They all comply with legal orders.
Plus, GPS tracking is fair game thanks to US versus NOTS. The Supreme Court ruled tracking movements in public via electronic devices doesn't violate privacy expectations. So, if your phone pings at a tower near a crime, that's evidence.
Especially since I know all y'all got your locations turned on your Snapchat anyway.
Right.
Everybody could see where you're at. Okay, Nanette, let's talk about something that people really don't understand. You don't even have to open an app for your phone to betray you.
And that's where criminals get really comfortable and real wrong. Because in 2024, investigators revealed that they were subpoenaing phishing notification metadata in over 100 criminal cases.
All right, let me translate that. Even if your messages are encrypted, even if you never reply, even if you delete everything, your phone still records when a notification hit your device, what app sent it, and where your phone was when it happened.
So you could be sitting there thinking, I never opened that message. I'm good. While prosecutors are building a timeline that says, actually, your phone buzzed 3 blocks from the crime scene at 10:42 p.m.
And the courts have allowed this because metadata isn't considered message content. It's considered business records, which means your phone company and app providers can legally be compelled to hand it over.
This has been used in cases involving violent crimes, fraud, and organized activity. And what's wild is some suspects generally thought encryption made them invisible. Nope. Just like the incognito tab does not.
Oh, yeah. You're not actually incognito, bro.
Yeah, your bosses can still see everything. So, yeah, your phone didn't read the message, but it raised its hand in court. And at this point, silence isn't protection. Silence is just another data point.
And let's not forget the criminals who live stream their crimes or post incriminating selfies. They're basically just gift wrapping their evidence for investigators. Oversharing on social media, it's like sending law enforcement personal little invitation.
So, here's the question. Are criminals underestimating how much their devices and apps betray them? Or do they just not care? Or do they think they're just so smart enough to outsmart all of it? Leave your thoughts in the comments because we'd love to hear what you think on this topic.
The law enforcement's use of digital evidence in its modern investigations. All right, Nanette, let's talk about the elephant in the room, digital evidence. People think that they're deleting a text or turning their location services off, and that's making them invisible. Spoiler alert, like we said, it doesn't. Law enforcement today is they're just swimming in terabytes of data. We're talking body cams, surveillance footage, GPS logs, social media posts, even for minor crimes.
Terabytes, Miranda. That's not just your embarrassing selfies. That's every ping, every timestamp, every where you at text. This explosion of data has completely changed investigations. It's like CSI, but on steroids. And here's the kicker. It's not random snooping. There's a whole process called digital evidence lifecycle.
Yeah, that time you text your friend about diarrhea,
Yeah.
they know
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Step one, seizure and preservation. And they lock down your devices and cloud accounts so nothing gets corrupted. Step two, forensic analysis. That's where they dig through your phone like it's a crime scene. They're pulling the metadata, they're pulling the deleted files, the GPS trails. And finally, courtroom presentation. They don't just have screenshots around. Like, they build timelines, they authenticate data, they explain it all to the jury. They got one of those little boards with the strings on it.
I was going to say, either that or I bet they have a PowerPoint.
Oh, it's probably PowerPoint.
I wonder if there's somebody in the DA's office that just builds PowerPoints for trials.
If that's your job, let us know. We'd like to hear about it. That sounds kind of cool.
Right. As we said before, your smartphones are impartial digital witnesses. They don't forget, they don't lie, and they don't take your side. Even your absence from the data can raise red flags.
And the data isn't used alone. It's layered with surveillance footage, transaction logs, and social media activity to reconstruct like all your movements with shocking precision. The myth is that technology gives criminals an advantage, but in reality, it gives law enforcement a witness that never sleeps. You can argue motive and you can argue intent, but it's hard to argue with your own phone.
And it sounds slick, but here's the problem. The justice system is struggling to keep up. Agencies need massive storage, advanced software, and specialized training. Judges and prosecutors? Many don't even understand what metadata is. RAND Corporation, a nonprofit research organization, and the National Institute of Justice, the research arm of the U.S. Department of Justice, have published research that basically says, yo, we're not ready for this tidal wave of digital evidence. Without proper education, the courts risk misjudging reliability, and that can tank a case.
And then there's the role of service providers like Google, Snapchat, and Facebook. So they're not just social platforms anymore, they're key players in these investigations. They hand over data under lawful orders, but that opens a whole like Pandora's box about privacy and civil liberties. Where's the line between catching criminals and just creeping on everyone?
Why even researched crime fails when common sense is missing?
Some criminals think they're masterminds because they Googled how to commit the perfect crime. Spoiler alert, research does not cancel stupidity.
Exactly. Cognitive biases like the planning fallacy and optimism bias make people underestimate complexity and risk and even hours of research. They think, I've got this, when they really, really don't got this.
And then there's base rate fallacy. So offenders often misinterpret probabilities and overestimate success rates. So they ignore the fact that most crimes fail and assume that they'll be the exception.
Of course.
Yes, I'm much smarter than everyone else.
I Googled.
It's said that's how you do the perfect murder.
Right? Add social and emotional factors, peer pressure, stress, impulsivity, and the rational planning goes out the window. I don't really think you could call any of this rational planning to start with. I mean, for real. Studies show offenders prioritize immediate rewards over long-term consequences. Well, you think? Nobody's really thinking about going to jail. They're thinking about whatever crime they're going to crime. And this is why perfect crimes are basically unicorns.
This is where people really get tripped up because a lot of these criminals weren't impulsive in the way we usually imagine. Like, they didn't just snap and be like, I'm about to go do this. Like, they planned, they researched, they thought. Well, they thought they thought.
Right. And that's exactly the problem. Research doesn't equal insight. It often does the opposite. There's something called the overconfidence effect. The more effort people put into preparing for something, the more they overestimate how well they understand it. So Googling how to get away with murder doesn't make you smarter. It just makes you feel smarter.
What's that they say? Knowledge doesn't equal wisdom.
Right.
Right. We saw that with Edward Yates. He spent weeks researching silencers, locks, and perfect crimes. In his mind, preparation meant control. But all it actually did was create a very detailed roadmap for prosecutors. His confidence went up, but his odds went down. That's the illusion. Planning feels like confidence, research feels like mastery, and the brain, it rewards that feeling.
Which brings us to dopamine.
Good old dopamine.
Every time somebody feels like they've figured something out, found the right search term, the right legal loophole, the right excuse, the brain gives them a little hit of a reward. Not pleasure, Motivation. Dopamine says, keep going, you're onto something. That's why people spiral. One search becomes 10, one plan becomes a full fantasy, and suddenly they're not evaluating risk anymore. They're feeding confidence.
Oh, like Susan, the perfect neighbor. It's a perfect example. She didn't just act out of anger. She researched stand your ground laws. She researched all her justifications in advance. And that research did not make her safer. It made her bolder. And it gave her permission in her own little crazy person head.
Yep. Because once people convince themselves they understand the system, they stop imagining consequences. They imagine outcomes. And of course, they imagine outcomes in their favor. And social media pours gasoline on that fire. Validation doesn't just feel good, it accelerates behavior.
So when people post, brag, live stream, or even joke about crimes, they're getting this feedback in real time. The attention, reaction, engagement. It turns everything into this performance. And I mean, the act isn't just about the result, it's really about the response.
We saw that with the live stream cases. Once an audience shows up, stopping feels like losing. Escalation feels necessary.
It's not just violent crimes. I mean, look at the marker mask burglars. Tragedy wasn't just the disguise, it was the confidence that came with it. They thought that they were so freaking clever. They felt clever. They just knew they were clever. And that feeling overrode all common sense.
I wonder what their blood alcohol content was.
Oh, it had to be astronomical.
The same with the people who post selfies mid crime or drive stolen cars to court. At a certain point, arrogance just replaces reality testing. This is the base rate fallacy we talked about earlier at work. People ignore how often crimes fail and assume everyone else got caught because they were dumb. They assume I'm different. I did my homework.
Hmm. But the data doesn't care about your confidence. It cares about patterns, and most criminals don't understand one critical thing. Investigators don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be human. Humans repeat behaviors. They leave habits, they get sloppy, they get emotional, which is why research crimes fail just as spectacularly as impulsive ones. Sometimes even faster, because confidence without foresight isn't intelligence, it's liability.
And every single case we talked about, from Google searches to live streams to permanent marker masks, follows the same psychological arc: overconfidence, reinforcement, escalation. And then reality shows up with the receipts.
You ever wonder why some criminals act like they're starring in their like little own action movie? Like they think they're untouchable, posing for selfies mid crime, like bragging on Snapchat. It's not arrogance, it's science. There's this thing called the overconfidence effect. Basically, people overestimate their abilities to succeed and underestimate the risks.
Right, and it's not random. Cognitive biases like illusion of control and the planning fallacy make offenders feel like they've got everything handled, even when their plan is Swiss cheese. They think, I've researched this, I'm good. Nope. Research shows these biases are hardwired.
Right, I have 12% of a plan. What could go wrong?
Right?
And, personality plays a role too. Studies link traits like extroversion and negative emotionality to risk taking, like through overconfidence. So, impulsive decisions, really. All right, so here's the wild part. Some offenders have like theory of mind deficits, and that means they really struggle with advanced social cognition, like anticipating consequences or detecting irony or double bluffs.
Maybe they should have Googled what would be the consequences.
Real, huh? Why they're in there Googling?
Right? And in criminal thinking patterns, short term focus, optimism bias, and peer influence, and rational planning goes right out that window. Even when they research their crimes, they're still blinded by arrogance. It's like they're playing checkers while the law enforcement is playing 4D chess.
And we're using the words research very loosely. We got air
Yeah,
quotes.
yeah.
When you line all these cases up, from Edward Yates to live stream killers, it's the same psychological cocktail: overconfidence, impulsivity, and a total misunderstanding of how
And
technology works.
of course, they always think they're the exception. They think they're smarter. And every single time, the data disagrees.
It really does every time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Seriously Sus. If you thought you could outsmart technology or that permanent marker makes a good disguise, think again.
We've seen how Google searches, Snapchat streaks, and live streams can turn wannabe masterminds into their own worst enemies. And let's be real. Sometimes the only thing more powerful than a search warrant is a criminal's ego.
Remember that the internet never forgets, and neither do we. If you enjoyed today's deep dive into digital disasters and criminal overconfidence, hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and share your favorite sus moment from the episode.
Stay connected with us on social at Seriously Sus Podcast. And if you got a story or two or a side eye to share, slide into our DMs or email us at seriouslysuspodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and above all, stay sus.
And don't Google your crimes.
And remember, your phone is always watching. You've just tuned in to Seriously Sus with Nanette and Miranda, your ultimate source of sus with a side eye. Thanks for hanging out with us. If today's episode made you think twice or laugh, hit that like button and subscribe and follow Seriously Sus Podcast for more deep dives into criminal trends, drama, and cultural chaos. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay sus. We're not doing outro music?
Music! Outro music! Outro music!
That's a wrap.